Welcome back, guys, to CryptosRUs. I am George. Well, Bitcoin is showing some weakness today. So I have some urgent news about what's going to happen with Bitcoin. In fact, I kind of knew this was coming, and I even tweeted about it this morning. So I want to show you guys exactly what I'm seeing, where I think Bitcoin is going, and more importantly, talk about why it's happening. Is this natural? Are we going to see more of this? Or is there something else going on behind the scenes? And there's actually a good clip I found that actually asked some tough questions. A CNBC clip that asked some very tough questions to the CEO of CoinShares, who I believe failed at answering those questions. And they do relate to volatility. And I think a lot of you guys, especially those of you guys that's new in this space, you want to learn why volatility exists, why it can be a good thing, and why it can be a bad thing. And what does it have to do with Bitcoin and crypto? Well, I'm going to answer all of that in today's stream. So, as always, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and also make sure you follow me on Twitter and Facebook, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my future videos or any of my important messages I'm trying to get out. All right, thanks for sticking around because I was a little late. I recognize that, but thank you. All right, let's get started. Let me turn over the screen here. And here we go. Let me put this user out. Yeah, let me go get that user out. Okay, so this is what Bitcoin looks like right now. 35,500, obviously a little bit lower than yesterday, right? Yesterday we had a glorious return back to 40,000. And now we're showing a bit more weakness, right? So what exactly is going on? So this is what I saw yesterday, and I was going to, I was actually going to stream, but I was just way too tired, and I wanted to see if it was going to play out. And this morning, it played out exactly like I thought. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and I'm going to let you guys see what I'm seeing, right? So what does that look like to you, right? That actually looks like a pretty classic pattern, double top pattern, right? And normally with double tops, you know, they come and go. You know, shorter time frames, you see it a lot. Longer time frames like this is a 4-hour. Yeah, sometimes you see it, but you know, patterns, they don't really always form, right? Like just recently, a lot of people were calling the head and shoulders pattern, and it didn't happen, right? It just blew past it. Bitcoin did what it wanted to. But I was studying this yesterday. You know, you would not believe how much I'm on my phone studying Bitcoin's movement and volume and everything. Like literally every single second of every single day while I'm awake. And I was noticing volume was decreasing and getting more and more negative. And as this built up more and more, it was pretty obvious that we were going to come down, at least for a time being, right? And also, yesterday's move up was a tremendous recovery due to some really, really good news. And I'm going to talk about one of those pieces of news in a little bit. But it just seemed like Bitcoin wanted to come back down. So this morning, those of you guys that follow me on Twitter, not many people saw it or reacted to it. I'm like, hey, it looks like Bitcoin's going to take a breather and may settle at 34.5, right? Because that's where, you know what, the previous, you know, one of the previous resistances that Bitcoin's seen. It became a support, and you know what? It bounced right off of there like clockwork, like 34.5, went back up, and now it's coming down again, right? So it's going to be crucial. It's going to be crucial to see what happens when Bitcoin goes back down to 45.5. Now, this is all short term, right? So normally I talk about fundamentals, long term, the bigger picture, and none of that have changed, but for a change, I'm going to talk about short term, what you can expect within, you know, a few hours later today and heading into tomorrow. So with the double top, basically you're coming down to previous levels, right? And the previous level from this recent drop that we had from 42,000, we dropped all the way to 30,000 for Bitcoin, right? Someone gave me a super chat. What do you think? Junie. Thank you for that super chat. I'll answer that later. But you could see that, you know, obviously we just got passed through some weakness. Bitcoin reset itself, took a breather, right? went down to $30,000. And there's an article I want to talk about too that also relates to this. So there's a good amount of articles. But anyways, but then after that, we had a huge recovery back up to 40,000, right? And now we're at kind of at that junction point, like what is Bitcoin going to do, right? So 34.5 held today, and it just bounced off of there maybe about an hour ago, but now there's it's still heading down. Some of the indicators are still showing that there could be weakness ahead. So I think the important part is to look at this. If Bitcoin heads to 34.5 again, and it cannot hold, the next stop will be, I think, 30,000, just like before, and it completes that double top formation. That's what I'm thinking, right? So I think what's important to recognize is this point. This 34.5 that has stopped right there once already. Is it going to bounce off of there again? And if it does and goes higher, that would be a beautiful thing. That would actually be like a reverse heads and shoulders for those of you guys that want to know. But if it does not, and there's more weakness ahead, then you're going to see Bitcoin break through it. And I think the next stopping point will be around 30,000, just like last time. Now, with that said, what should you be doing right now? Because a lot of people are probably panicking. Like, hey, you know what? Bitcoin is falling. This is just like 2017. I better get out now. No, that's not what you want to do with this information. I just got done talking about it. Actually, done talking about it for the last 2-3 years. Basically, when there's situations like this, you don't want to be panicking. Actually, at least not panic selling. If anything, you should be panic buying because there's not that many opportunities to buy cheap Bitcoins anymore, right? So right now, we can clearly see that there is a lot more volatility, right, after Bitcoin hit 40,000. And why is that? I was looking at it. Why all of a sudden did Bitcoin volatility come back, right? We had such a good run for so long, and it was basically nonstop highs, nonstop highs, nonstop highs every single day. So why is it coming back? Well, remember what I talked about in terms of the psychological level of like even numbers and certain levels, especially 10,000 levels, right? We had a really hard time breaking and holding above 10,000. And that goes back years, right? And we had a really hard time breaking through 20,000, right? But 30,000 broke like it was nothing. Like it was almost too easy, right? And 40,000 came, honestly, very, very, very fast. Way faster than any of us thought, right? So right now at 35,000 or even at 30,000, this is not time to be panic selling because you have to just look at history and look at where was the last time Bitcoin was at 30,000, right? Besides the last point, that was January 11th. That was only 4 days ago. What was the last time before that Bitcoin was at 30,000? Well, that was at the beginning of the year, January 5th to be exact, right? So obviously, it's only been 10 days. It's only been 10 days, and Bitcoin is still 6,000 points higher than it was 10 days ago. So you got to realize that Bitcoin has gone up so much, so fast, right? So whenever it does that, there will be volatility. Because you know what? People are going to take profits. Whales will take opportunity to kind of scare people, right? Create FUD, cause people to massive dump because they know that a lot of people are new to this space and they're not used to the volatility. But for most of us that's been holding for a long time, this is nothing. This is what we see as golden opportunities to buy, right? So with this information, with the short-term information, if those of you guys that's looking for a good pickup, I would say this 34.5 for the time being, right? And see where it goes. Because I do believe Bitcoin will fall down to 34.5 again. And if it does not hold, I think the next stop will be 30,000. But both of these places would be a great, fantastic buying point because of how far Bitcoin has fallen down, right? And usually, when you see Bitcoin fall down this fast, guess what happens? There's usually a pretty quick recovery, a V-shaped recovery. Because right now, like I said at the beginning, fundamentals of Bitcoin did not change one bit. Didn't change from yesterday to today, didn't change from a week to today. The fundamentals of Bitcoin is still solid, very, very, very strong. And that's why Bitcoin continues to rise up, right? But short term, there will be volatility. And that relates to the CNBC clip that I want to talk about because this CoinShares CEO was asked about it and he just failed with his answer, right? So that is what I'm seeing right now. And actually, besides a tweet, some may think, oh, this is too late because this actually right before I woke up, and I do wake up very late because I sleep very early. But yeah, I also gave mention to some of my Patreon members last night. I'm like, you know what? This looks like a double top, and it could form out that way, and it did. So, unfortunately, that's just how things are. Sometimes these formations do plan out. I shouldn't say unfortunately, because sometimes they work out in their favor, right? Now we have Bitcoin that's a little bit cheaper. Great buying opportunity, great opportunity to dollar cost average and pick up more Bitcoins before the next run, the next leg up. And, being this high already, like I said, we went up so fast, right? We've gotten used to the fact that Bitcoin forms a new all-time high every single day. We haven't really seen that consolidation period. Ever since we passed 30,000, it's been up and down, very volatile, right? But, before 30,000, there was many periods where Bitcoin just kind of went sideways a little bit, right? After 30,000, things have really changed, right? You could see that 19,000, 24,000, 34,000, they were pretty solid, just going sideways until a leg up, pretty sideways. But after 30,000, you could see that's when volatility really came back, right? There's a big drop over here, obviously a big pump, a big drop, big pump, a little bit of a drop, big pump, and now a bigger, decent drop too. So volatility has definitely returned after 30,000, and this could be our sideways movement because I'm on a 1 hour chart, right? If you look at, and I'm going to show you, if you look at the 4 hour daily, this could mean that, Bitcoin is going sideways a little bit, and that's perfectly normal if that happens, right? Because previous periods was like that. If you go, like I said, if I zoom in to I don't know, the daily chart, you could still see some up and downs, but for the most part, a lot less scary than looking at the 1 hour chart, right? So this could be where that Bitcoin just kind of hovers between these two spots. That would be a huge gap if that happened. And I'm talking about 35 and 40,000. If Bitcoin keeps going between these two numbers, that would be pretty big, substantial drops and pumps. But, who knows? Maybe that is the case. Maybe Bitcoin goes like that for a little bit sideways, right? And then it gets ready for the next leg up. So yeah, I mean, the message is the same. Fundamentals of Bitcoin didn't change at all. Nothing has changed overnight. Nothing has changed from a week ago. Nothing has changed from 3 months ago, right? Bitcoin is solid. People are still afraid of inflation. People are still buying Bitcoin as a hedge. Institutions are still buying and holding Bitcoin. None of that has changed, right? Right now, seems like there's just more volatility due to some more whalish games, like I used to say. Some more whalish games, some bear raid type of activity going on, and also possibly with the miners taking some profits. And there are a lot of economic factors at play right now, right? One of the things I covered yesterday is the new Biden $1.9 trillion stimulus plan. Now, this will bump up people that receive $600 up to $1,400, and there's also a lot more benefits, unemployment benefits, small business benefits. The minimum wage gets raised up. There's a lot of things that's going on here, right? So this is still, this has just been unveiled. It still needs to be negotiated. This is kind of like the first step, right? We know something's going to come from this. We just don't know when. And I don't know if both parties agree if this is enough or not enough, or this might balloon even more, right? So it could be way bigger than this. But anyways, I do think, yesterday I said this, and I still think I stand by this. I think this is going to be awesome for Bitcoin. Right now, it's not solidified yet, so I think people are still on the fence. But I do think this is going to help Bitcoin in a big way. Big way. When you have more trillions flowing into the broader market, you're going to have a cash injection, right? Into Main Street, Wall Street, into crypto. You're having just a whole bunch of cash injections everywhere. Just came out of the sky, basically, right? So it's going to help things overall. Also, people that are afraid of inflation afraid of the dollar devaluing itself to basically zero in front of their eyes, they are also going to be buying more Bitcoin because of this, because the US deficit and the deficits basically around the world, they're all ballooning up like crazy, right? So I think this overall, once approved, will be good for Bitcoin in a couple ways. But here's the interesting thing. I was looking through this. So there is some other chartists here, or analysts, Cointelegraph's in-house analyst, Joseph Young. And I wanted to show you guys this chart because this is something that I predicted, I think last week. And this actually goes into, it basically outlines what I was saying. And that is Bitcoin will hit $100,000 by the end of April, right? So this shows you what's happening right now after this recent halving event, right? And if you plot it against the growth of previous halving events, this is where Bitcoin should be going forward, right? So actually, if you look at it, December 31st, 2020, that was when Bitcoin was around 41,000, or it should have been around 41,000, and we were like right there, right? And if you project it according to like previous growths, then Bitcoin should be at $100,000 by April 18th of 2021. And I just recently predicted, I'm like, the way Bitcoin is going, I would not be surprised to see it at 100,000 by end of April. So that actually aligns with that perfectly. And then it could go as high by May of 2021. I think that's a little bit too fast. But if it's the same growth as previous cycles, Bitcoin could be at 400,000 or 387,000 to be exact by May of 2021, which I think is too fast. But who knows? This is Bitcoin. After 100,000, I said after 20,000, Bitcoin just will do its thing. It's unknown territory. It's uncharted, right? And it has come up really fast. After 100,000, that growth will probably be exponentially higher than now. So who knows? Maybe it can go 4x within a single month. However unlikely that is, but maybe, right? And then it shows that Bitcoin stalls out a little bit. End of the year, October 17th, it'll come back down to about $286,000. And then look at it. This also aligns with something that I've been saying, is that once Bitcoin, reaches peak of this cycle, it could just stay up there. There's no reason why it should come down anymore, because all previous cycles were driven by retail FOMO and weak hands. Now this one is all driven by institutions that have very strong hands and they're holding everything. So is there any real reason why Bitcoin will drop 85% after hitting highs this year? I don't think so. It could come down. It could come down, no doubt. But will it come down a full 85% like previous cycles? I don't know. I'm starting to think that is unlikely, but, we don't have to wait too long to see. But according to this, that's actually exactly, lining up with what I'm thinking, is that, yeah, maybe we peak and we come down a little bit, but overall, we just start going sideways. And that's it. We don't really come down 85%. We just go sideways. And then we start slowly going up as the next 4-year cycle approaches, which means, the next halving event. So I like it. I think this is, I think it's pretty good, good analysis versus the previous cycle and our current projection right now. So it could happen. It can happen. All right. Something else that someone mentioned, Blade Runner, he brought this up. So this is an interesting point because this happened. I noticed this happened before too. The US dollar actually rises today for some reason. Even though we're going to be having a lot more trillions out there, I guess other economies are doing worse. So the US dollar actually rose because all the other currencies went down. And last time Bitcoin fell to 30,000, the US dollar also went up. So is that a coincidence? Is that when people are getting excited about the dollar, they're actually selling off Bitcoin to buy the dollar, or because they think, it should be a non-correlated or inverse correlation? Who knows? It could be a total coincidence. It's only 2 days, 2 times, right? But kind of interesting how that worked out. Here's another story. So the last drop to 30,000, right? People speculated maybe some of the miners were selling off, right? Maybe they needed to take some profits. They needed to use that cash to buy more mining facilities, something. Don't know. But according to this, they're saying no, that's not the case. So weekly BTC transfers from mining wallets to crypto exchanges, and a lot of people do track this. So yeah, I'm sure they track the biggest miners, like how much they actually send per week to exchanges. And according to this, it didn't actually really increase. So whether or not this is reliable data, I don't know, because I don't know if they keep track of every single wallet, right? There could be a ton of wallets out there that they don't track. But according to this, it's not. So if we just take this into account, like, okay, miners are not selling, right? And Blade Runner has a good point. Miners could be selling OTC, so this is not tracking that. This is actually tracking to what's going to exchanges, right? So, but even I was gonna say, even if this was true, right? Then that would mean all the volatility is from the whales right now, and I just don't see it. I just don't see it. Obviously, because of new players in the game, weaker hands coming in, people that don't know the volatility, maybe they could get scared out, right? But the whales, they're losing their traction because every time they do a big drop, there's a V-shaped recovery, and that means other people are buying it up. Institutions are buying it up, right? So it's risky for them to do it. But recently, it did happen. But I think it's a combination. I just don't think it's the whales going all in and leveraging everything to try to cause a drop. I think it was a combination of them on top of miners also selling, and also on top of just people that's taking profits, right? Bitcoin needed to take a breather. So I think it's a combination of all three. But, I don't think we'll ever know 100% definitively what happened. But we know it happened. But we know how to take advantage of when it happens, right? That's the important thing. You don't want to be panic selling. You don't want to be giving your wealth away. You want to be doing the opposite. You want to take that power away. You want to be panic buying, if anything, right? So then you're grabbing yourself cheap Bitcoins and you're getting yourself prepared for the future. All right, so two other things. Number one, this story is coming out again, and people keep asking me about it. This story has been out since 2013. So unfortunately, this poor schmuck will never get his Bitcoin back. At this point, it's just pointless to even try. So this is a good example why Bitcoin gets lost, because people are not careful. Recently, I showed you guys this article about ex-CTO of Ripple had about the same amount of Bitcoins on, I don't know if it's on a hard drive or something, but he used Iron Gate to lock it, and he only has 2 tries left before it just basically goes poof forever. So he's just basically giving up. This guy this is just negligence, but at the time he had 7,500 Bitcoins, he had his private keys locked somewhere, and he had 2 hard drives, and he accidentally threw away the wrong hard drive that holds the private keys to unlock 7,500 Bitcoins. And he's been trying over the years. This comes out every single year, basically. He goes on TV and talks about his sob story and blah, blah, blah. And I know it's hard to live with, but at this point, you just got to move on, right? But he's not. He just wants to excavate the landfill. He believes he knows the exact grid, the exact point where it is. And he says he has hedge funds that's going to back him. And he's going to offer the city like a quarter of the Bitcoins if they allow him to do so. And the city's like, no, we're not going to let you do so. There's too much headaches. What did they say? It's going to damage. There's going to have a huge environmental impact around the surrounding area. I don't know if it's just an excuse or they don't believe him, or they think it's just pointless, because keep in mind, it's been 7 or 8 years where that hard drive is sitting in trash, wet, dirty trash, right? Most likely, that's not an SSD, that's a spinning drive, right? There's going to be rust. Who knows if it could even be spun up? So there's a very good chance that this drive is already dead, but this man won't give up, right? He's offering $72 million, and they're still saying no. So it's one of those things where if you're going to secure your crypto, you better secure it right? Early on, just like the other guy, the ex-CTO of Ripple, a lot of these guys got a ton of Bitcoins, and they're like, yeah, whatever, because it's worth a few dollars, worth $10, $100. If it gets lost or whatever, I don't really care. Now, in hindsight, of course, they should have cared, right? But back then, that's why it was happening. But these days, I doubt anyone holding 7,500 Bitcoins will say, okay, I'm just going to leave it on a hard drive among other hard drives, and I'm just going to throw it out. That's not going to happen anymore, right? So these days, I think people are a lot more careful, but most of these stories are from people early on. That would be, 100 millionaires, if not billionaires, had they been a little bit more careful. But moral of the story is, going forward, you still have to be careful, right? If you're storing your own crypto, you have it on a hardware wallet, you got to be careful, right? You have that recovery phrase, like written down, locked up, right? In case you ever lose your ledger or treasure, right? You need to restore it for some reason. You need to have all that. Have it all, safeguarded as much as possible, because when you're your own bank, you have to secure your own Bitcoins, right? So that's the moral of the story. Lastly, I found this video. I'm going to show it to you guys. It's really short, only 2 minutes. So the reason I want to show you, because this host asked some relevant questions to what's happening today. So he's asking the CoinShares CEO. Again, CoinShares CEO was trying to give his spiel about why Bitcoin's going up. The same story that everyone's talking about, right? Institutions getting in, it's a store of value, hedging against inflation. But, the host is like, okay, I know all that. I get it, right? But he asked him some good questions about volatility, and also about why all the coins are moving together in tandem. Why is it when Bitcoin falls, they all fall, and Bitcoin goes up, they all go up, right? So he's asking some important questions that I think a lot of new investors, or not even new investors, seasoned investors, are wondering about. So first, I'm going to let you guys hear his answer, and then I'm going to give you my answer. Hopefully my answer is better. So let me put on my headset here. Craig Wright owns a landfill. All right, let's do this.
Fell 4,000 points a day and then rose 4,000 points the next day for a number of days. People would probably get spooked and say, what's going on with stocks? Bitcoin has been doing that, and nobody seems to care. I know the idea of Bitcoin, by the way, is that it's independent and uncontrollable, but I do wonder, with 18.5 million coins or so mined, only 21 million ever, and big institutions stepping in, are you worried that it can be sort of semi-artificially bullied around by big hedge funds?
I don't think it's bullied around, but we're going to run out. We have, if you just take a single matrix, we have 21 million coins fully diluted. A lot of them have been lost already. And just in the US and North America, you have 21 million millionaires. So there's not enough one for each of you. So, at a global scale, we have a bit of an offer and demand imbalance here, which is manifesting by, this demand we can see in the market. There is time weighting algorithm buying every single dip at the moment in the market. In the past, when the market was tanking, it was staying there for a while because there was no more demand. Now there is people waiting for this move to just enter the market and start allocating.
Okay, so what? Hold on. Okay, so to answer that, I honestly think he didn't answer that at all. I think that was a horrible response to what the host was asking. So I think that's legit, because people have asked me. I keep talking about institutions. Did I turn off the headset? Yeah. So people ask me hey, the institutions that are FOMOing in, right? They're buying large amounts of Bitcoin, and you see that with Grayscale, right? I show you guys the numbers all the time, and it keeps going up and up and up. And people are like, well, if institutions have so much, couldn't they control the market? Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing about Bitcoin. Yes, to some extent, but as much as these institutions are buying, they pale in comparison to how much the miners hold, right? Who are powering the network, and they pale to the holders that's been in it for a long, long time. They really do. Out of the 18.5 million that's out, about 3 to 4 million is lost. But if you look at the total circulating supply that's out there, that's being held in wallets that are non-moving, it's enormous, right? So guys like this that have 7,500 Bitcoins, there's a lot more guys or companies or people who got in early or miners that have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin that they control, right? And what they are doing is they are not touching it at all because they're waiting for Bitcoin to go to $1 million plus. There is absolutely no reason for them to try to utilize that to manipulate the market, right? So even if the institutions, all of them are coming in, and yes, they can buy enormous amounts of Bitcoin, what they hold is still relatively small compared to people that have been in it for a long time. And there are statistics that show that the price movement that we see, right, like this, for example, this is all over the exchanges. This is not taking into account the volume within the OTC market. And the exchange volume, the overall exchange volume is very small. It's about 12%. 12% compared to everything else, right? So yes, maybe the institutions want to do that. I doubt it. That's not their game. Most of them are publicly traded and they're being audited, and manipulation is considered illegal. So most of them will not attempt to try that unless they want to get thrown in jail. But the whales can manipulate the market on the exchanges because they can. They have good amount of leverage, good amount of Bitcoin, right? But overall, it's a supply and demand game. When supply is very, very low and demand keeps going up, you know what's going to happen, right? So yeah, even though there is volatility, I should say, overall, you got to look at the price and what is it doing? It's going up. For the last 12 years, it's been going up. And ultimately, that's what people need to worry about, right? So if I was asked that question, that's how I would answer it. Because I don't think he answered that well at all. But all right, that's just my opinion. Let's move on to the second question.
A currency on the blockchain.
Oh, I messed up the sound. Let me do that again.
Was thinking it was staying there to just like enter the market. And
and there's so much correlation in the price moves, Jean-Marie, and it's not just between, maybe I'll call it the big 4 or 5, the ones you guys deal in. You've got Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, XRP, others. Those are really the big 4 or 5, but there's 40 or 50 cryptos that get traded and get a lot of attention on even some of the smaller exchanges. They tend to move together, even though they are, very different program languages in some cases, very different purposes. Some of them are like Bitcoin being turned into a currency, while others like Ethereum, a currency on the blockchain platform for Ether. Is there one that you personally favor over the others, or that your clients seem to favor over the others, or is it really just all about Bitcoin?
Look, it's I think CoinShare a couple of years ago did a very good piece about the portfolio allocation in the digital asset sphere and like what kind of value added you get in diversification. The truth in the matter is like there is a strong concentration in liquidity in the top pairs that you were mentioning, and our client will, and many institutions will also favor liquidity in their allocation decision. So Bitcoin, Ethereum will always win in terms of size and trade ticket versus a Ripple or something.
Okay. So again, I'm not so sure that was actually a good question and a good response. I thought the host was going for like, hey, why are all these 5 or 50 crypto going in tandem, right? That's where he's starting out to ask, and then he's like, okay, well then how does your clients just favor Bitcoin above all of them, right? So let me answer that, because I get asked that all the time too. Why is it when Bitcoin goes down, everything follows? Well, I think the most obvious is Bitcoin is definitely the leader of the crypto space by leaps and bounds, right? Besides Ethereum being about 1/5 smaller than Bitcoin, everything else pales. Not even close, right? So when there is selling with Bitcoin, a lot of people are fearful. So they're like, okay, Bitcoin's going down. You know what? I'm going to be selling, and I'm going to sell all the altcoins I have with it too, right? So that just makes a whole lot of sense. And when Bitcoin goes up, people are feeling good. They're going to put their money back into Bitcoin and also put it into altcoins, right? That has always been the case. But here's the thing. The reason why people prefer Bitcoin, Brad Pitt, thank you. The reason why people prefer Bitcoin is because over the long haul, over the last 5 years, 10 years, and most of these altcoins haven't been around for that long, but over the long haul, nothing has outperformed Bitcoin, right? So it's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. Why Bitcoin keeps going up, why it has all the name recognition, why everyone is looking at it, and not so much the others. Now, with that said, that does not mean that every other altcoin out there is what a lot of people call shitcoins. No, they serve different purposes, but it is very, very early for them, right? Very early for them. They're still trying to figure things out, right? So that is the reason why. That is the reason why you have a lot of altcoins. Sometimes they move pretty big, both directions, up and down, but ultimately they follow what Bitcoin is doing, right? And ultimately they trail Bitcoin because quite simply they don't have the adoption that they need. That's honestly it, right? Hey, thank you for those super chat, Falcon and Kelvin, right? So that's how I would answer that question, right? That's why they move in tandem. But of course, there are days where they don't move in tandem. For example, right now Polkadot is pumping up like crazy. The last few days, last week, up 42%. Obviously, Bitcoin last 7 days, 13% because of today's decline. So you do have altcoins that sometimes pump up, right? And that deviates from Bitcoin. Even this morning, Chainlink started coming up. Chainlink has been weak for a little bit. Now Chainlink is going up. Another project I covered, just 2 days ago. I didn't think that they would be this strong, but where is it? Voyager, I covered when I created that video, because someone introduced to me, Dirty DJ introduced it to me. I did a video. They were at like 77 cents and now they're at $1.21. So they have been really, really strong too, right? So sometimes altcoins do move faster, and it could be because of FOMO. It could be whale groups or pump groups that's pumping it up, right? And it's fine to hold. It's fine to hold because maybe one day they do become the next Microsoft or Apple or Google, right? But right now, the name of the game is still Bitcoin. Most people are favoring it because honestly, it's the least riskiest and it moves the most over time, right? So that's how I'd explain it. That's as simple as that. All right, so I'll turn it back to you guys. Right now, Bitcoin is right around when I started the stream, about 35.5. I know a lot of you guys are tuning in late, right? So make sure you subscribe to the channel and follow me on Twitter so you don't miss out on any of my instant tweets or any of my videos. But I mean, right now, like I said at the beginning of the stream, it looks like Bitcoin is going through a double top formation, right? A double top, meaning that there's 2 periods of time where it kind of goes up to the same point, right? It kind of forms like an M shape, right? And that's what's happening, right? It looked like it's forming that formation, but the good thing is it bounced off of 34.5, right? That was a previous resistance and support, and it looks like we had a good bounce there. The key thing will be whether or not this formation completes. And if it is to complete, that means Bitcoin will come back down to 34.5. It will then retrace even lower and possibly hit $30,000 down here. Then the formation will have complete, and then it'll be interesting to see what happens afterwards. But right now, it hasn't yet. It's kind of like halfway through, right? And it could very well mean that this is the low for the day and Bitcoin simply hovers for a little bit and then heads back up, which is also a very, very likely scenario, right? So you have to pay attention to see what happens if it comes down or if it comes down at all, right? And for those of you guys that's looking for buying opportunities, right? I've always said dollar cost average or buy the dips. when you have something go down 6,000 points in a single day, that is what I consider a pretty good dip, a good buying opportunity. It could go lower, but that's why you sprout your buys, right? People, when people see Bitcoin go to the moon at 40,000 or 42,000, people are like, should I buy? But no one really asks that. Should I buy when things are going down? And the answer is yes. You should buy when on the way down, not so much on the way up, although sometimes you just can't help yourself due to FOMO, right? So I would say look at this 34.5, right? And then if it can't hold, Bitcoin can go lower. And if it does go lower, again, that would be another gift for us, right? We know how fast Bitcoin recovers. Just like a few days ago when Bitcoin fell to 30,000, some of you guys picked up some Bitcoins and instantly you were rewarded with $10,000 per Bitcoin because it instantly pretty much went up to $40,000, right? And if it happens this time again, it's going to be another gift where once Bitcoin recovers back up to 40,000 and beyond, you're going to think of it as a buying gift, right? Like a gift was granted to you. So that's how you got to view it. Yeah, so hopefully that answers a lot of questions. I'll turn to you guys for some Q&A. Alan, that's pretty much the case. If Bitcoin goes higher, awesome. If it goes lower, awesome. That's how you got to view it. You really got to just view it like that. A lot of people's asking me about NBA Top Shots. I did not like virtual collectible things, so I have not looked into that. But people are telling me it's really hot. I mean, basketball, sports cards, collectibles are super, super hot. Just like crypto, just like stocks too. It depends on what stocks, right? A lot of things are going up because, you know what, people have extra money and plus they want to utilize that money without, you know, seeing their buying power go to nothing, right? And if you're investing in something that an asset that keeps going up, then obviously you're double benefiting, right? So cards is definitely really hot, but I never checked out Top Shots. I mean, I did check it out, but I'm not so interested in it. Kaiser, when are we going to Vegas? Well, we gotta wait for things to die down. Maybe later this year, maybe August, September. You know, when things have died down and it's safe to travel again. We'll see. And at that time probably better because Bitcoin could be at like 200,000 already. A lot of people like Cardano. It tends to, you know, quite honestly right now, you're seeing a lot of big caps pump for really no good reason. I'm going to put it that way. And that sounds harsh, but there's really no reason why a lot of these big caps all of a sudden pump and then they stop. It just seems like the whales are moving to one, pumping it out and up, taking out their profits and pumping out another, and then taking out their profits, pumping another, right? The only one that they're not doing it with is XRP right now. But, you know, we have seen Ethereum pump up to 1,200 really fast, right? Kind of cool down. Cardano recently pumped up to about 30 cents really fast, right? Recently, we have seen Polkadot do that. And now we're seeing that flow into Chainlink. We also saw with Stellar too, right? So we're seeing a lot of big caps being pumped. And it just seems like one money is being transferred to another, being transferred to another. But the good thing is, every time a pump is over, the price kind of stays higher, right? It kind of stays steady. It doesn't go back to previous levels. So that's the good thing. But to answer your question about Cardano, and someone asked about Chainlink, I mean, they're a big cap for a reason. They have a large amount of following, right? A lot of people that are bag holders, and they are still performing and executing. They're not a scam coin or shit coin, right? So I think overall they're gonna have fine futures. But like I just got done saying, Bitcoin carries the entire market, right? As Bitcoin keeps going up, every single one, well, at least the big caps and mid caps for now, will follow. The small caps will follow eventually. But right now, just watch what Bitcoin is doing. If Bitcoin has like a tremendous fall, everything will have a tremendous fall, you know. But if Bitcoin continues to show strength and keeps going up, all these will be pulled up with it. Marshawn, good for you. Overall, Voyager, you know, after I was introduced to it, I looked at it. I think it's a great project. That might be my #1 new altcoin project. You know, there's a lot I've talked about over the years, right? I think that may be my new favorite one after looking at the team and so forth. So, but yeah, it has been doing pretty good too. I'll tell you about my opinion on XRP at the end of the stream. I got a video to show you. BTC dominance. BTC dominance fell down a little bit because of these Bitcoin big caps pumping. But you know, this is still high, and I do think this will go higher. Not too long ago, BTC dominance was 70%. Before previous bull runs, Bitcoin dominance was in the 80s and 90s, and we could see that happen again, right? But whenever Bitcoin stalls out a little bit, takes a breather, it's usually generally good for altcoins. When I say breather, like sideways movement, not like a downturn. But when Bitcoin goes sideways for a little bit, generally that's good for altcoins because a lot of money flow out, go into altcoins, get them pumped up, and then generally the money flows into Bitcoin again, right? So that's how I view the whole thing about dominance, BTC's dominance. Insight, I think there's one thing on the charts. Generally, I don't like to use the charts as a predictor for the future, right? Because Bitcoin is driven by money, and it's driven by fundamentals. It's not driven by what the charts say, right? The one thing that I do think is coming up, not right now, pretty soon, maybe at like 50,000, 60,000, I say Bitcoin takes a long breather. Right now we're seeing volatility. We're not seeing that breather yet, or maybe it will come at 40,000. But I think Bitcoin's will go a little bit higher and then take a long extended breather. And I'm talking about maybe for a few months. And it could happen after 100,000, who knows? And the reason why I think that is because the longer indicators, like the daily recently dropped to bottom. And that's great. That means after this dip, right, there's a lot of momentum for Bitcoin to continue back up higher. That's why I think it's going to go higher to $50,000 or $60,000. The thing that I'm looking at right now is the weekly. The weekly is sky high, and it just started to turn, right? So the weekly is over many weeks, right? And the RSI on weekly is now higher, or it was higher than the peak of 2017, right? And we know those days were just crazy. So what does this mean? I think Bitcoin is going to take a breather at some point, a very long extended breather, and that could be coming at $50,000, $60,000. So I think that's after the daily tops out again, right? And then we'll see that. So again, I don't know when that's going to come. And again, I don't like to use these long-term charts as any indication because things can change week after week, right? Fundamentals don't change, but there could be a big announcement and something that is a real driver for Bitcoin, and things could just turn on a dime, right? And it could continue higher. So that's the only thing I'll say about the long-term charts I'm looking at. But yeah. You know, like for example, if Elon Musk, and I think this is still coming, Elon Musk declares that he's going to put a lot of money into Bitcoin from Tesla Reserve, that would literally shoot Bitcoin up to 50,000 overnight, right? Like something like that, I think will be coming, and that will just cause Bitcoin to go up through the moon, right? So things like that, you just can't predict. You know, all these lines and indicators and patterns and resistances and supports and all these levels, right? They can't predict any of that. So, so I think there's a lot more good news like that coming along. It could be a breather at 100,000. We don't know. You know, 100,000 by end of April, maybe then we take that long extended breather, because think about the psychological level of 100,000 per Bitcoin. I was saying that before, right? When we were still below 20,000, I was saying, think about when Bitcoin hits $30,000, right? That's a huge accomplishment. And then we just broke through that like it was nothing. Like that was trash. And we got to 40,000 right away, right? And if you think about 40,000 for a single Bitcoin, that's a huge accomplishment, right? Think about when Bitcoin is at $100,000, which I think is around the corner. The weight of that is so enormous, right? And that could be when Bitcoin takes a breather, because it's 100,000, right? And then maybe it just stays there for a little bit. It doesn't just have to be Elon. It could be anyone. It could be Apple declaring that they're building out a wallet in the next iPhone, right? They're integrating Bitcoin into Apple Pay, right? That would make sense because they're following suit with PayPal, right? That would be enormous. Samsung, right? Samsung already has like a blockchain store or some kind of wallet. I haven't really used that. I don't hear them hype it up, but they already have one. They're working on it, right? So there's a lot of things that can happen besides Elon declaring it. But if Elon declares that, it would really send it to the moon. If he declared that he was going to make Dogecoin the official crypto of Mars, that would also send it to the moon. He already talks about it and always pumps up Dogecoin. But if he actually commits and says, I'm going to make a concerted effort to make Dogecoin the crypto of Mars once we have a station, that would literally, 10x Dogecoin overnight. Ming, don't be shilling your Tesla stock in here. Did I miss the boat on VGX? No, I mean, if you watch my video, even though I screwed it up, I think VGX has 10x potential. But that was when it was at, 77 cents, and it's already went up 50%. I was concerned that it went up a little bit too fast, and that still could be a concern, so it could pull back at any time because it's up quite a bit. But I like what I see. The app is pretty good. The team is fantastic. It's about the best team you could have for a project. And they allow crypto buying. They allow automatic staking. And they're still working on a desktop app. And I didn't know Tracy McGrady is involved with Voyager. So one of my Patreon members told me that. I don't know how he got invested or why he's a spokesperson, but he is for Voyager too. And they're publicly traded company too in Canada and US, which means that they're legit for sure. So there's a lot going for Voyager. I really like them as a project. Right now, actually, Bitcoin is holding very, very well at this point. We've seen some up and downs, right? But obviously, Bitcoin bounced at 34.5 with previous resistance. And it's holding. It's holding right now, right? A lot better than before. Okay, number one is, take a look at the volume before, right? Look at all this volume before. Basically, very, very low, but most of it was selling. Now you're starting to see some buying pressure come back, but they're still very low. So it really depends on if the bears are going to try to drive Bitcoin a little bit lower, try to retest this 34.5, which I think is going to happen. And then we'll see what happens. If it can bounce off again, I think this is the low point of the day. And I do think Bitcoin is set to rally starting even later tonight or tomorrow, just like previous days. But if Bitcoin breaks through this, I think that double top formation will continue on. And Bitcoin will probably fall back down to around 30,000 before recovering, right? Either way, I think this is a gift. This is a good buying opportunity. When something falls down 6,000 points from top, that's a pretty good buying opportunity. And it falls down more, 10,000 from the top, that's even a better buying opportunity, right? So you don't want to miss these gifts when you're presented them. Joshua, thank you for that. Remember, noobs, the BTC becomes what we all believe it will become. You never have to ever sell. That's true. That's true. Right now, all denominations is in USD, right? That's just reality. You pay for bills in USD. You buy things with your credit card. You have a bank account, your mortgage, your taxes. Everything's USD. I get it, right? So right now, everything's based on the USD. And that's okay as long as the value of the USD of your Bitcoin keeps going up, right? But in the future, if really fiat somehow collapses or there's a new golden standard, a global standard that's not USD and it becomes Bitcoin, then everything can be denominated in Bitcoin instead, in sats, instead of USD. Seems far-fetched right now, right? And it may take some time for that, but we got time. A lot of us have time. It could be 10 years, 20 years from now, right? And by then, Bitcoin could be $1 billion each. Who knows? Low roller, I did not. Not yet. Francesco, RSR and its involved investors, reserve.org. All right, I'm going to check that out as the last thing, and I'm going to let you guys go. Reserve rights. They have pumped up a lot recently, coming down a little bit. They are on Binance. See, being on Binance is also very important, because if you want somebody to truly pump, it has to be on Binance. That's like the number one thing. Kimberly, thank you for that. Let's just look at it real quick here. Flexible pool of stablecoins designed to reduce risk through diversification and decentralized government. I think I looked at this before. Yeah, I heard of this. Who's the people behind this? So this is a competition. Basically, it's trying to compete with Dem, right? Or Deem. I don't know. Before I look at the team, I'm just trying to think. Reserve is just an app for buying and holding and spending digital US dollars. Right? So how, if everything is backed by a dollar, right? A stable coin, all these stable coins are 1-to-1 ratio with the dollar, right? And the dollar depreciates. Devaluing. So, and yeah, it's depreciating. So that means reserve is also depreciating with the dollar, right? That's why, I don't know. I don't like this model. I don't like anything that's based on stable coins. First of all, what's the point of holding on a stable coin, right? It will never go up in value. It's supposed to be pegged 1-to-1, right? So the only purpose of stable coins is to cash out and hold on an exchange, right? So first, I don't really like stable coins. I see no point in purchasing it or holding on to them. And then reserve is a flexible stable coins. So how do you reduce risk through diversification when they're all based on stable coins that are devaluing themselves? I guess I don't get the bigger picture. I get the bigger picture that you can use it to spend as a day-to-day currency, but I don't get the purpose of utilizing a bunch of stable coins to back it when all the stable coins are getting worthless in value. I don't know. Maybe you guys can answer that better. But anyways, let's see if this leads to LinkedIn profile. No, it does not. Coinbase, Arrington. Hey, isn't that the crypto trader from CNBC? I mean, it seems like they have a good amount of investors, but I can't click on to these team members, so I can't tell you. I mean, this is exactly what Dem is trying to do. Mark and Facebook, they're trying to make Dem based on a pool of stable coins. I mean, it's based on a pool of stable coins. So it seems like they're trying to compete with them directly. So I don't know if it's actually going to work. I'll spend more time off air to look at the team, but right now I'm not very excited about this project at all. All right, guys, that is it. Bitcoin is holding. It's doing pretty good. So who knows? Maybe it can just bounce up from here. And that is the low point of the day. And that would be great. This would be a pretty good buying opportunity, right? We might see Bitcoin go right back up to $40,000. But I think it's still a little bit early to tell. We got to see if this really builds up from here or it still goes down to 34.5. And then we'll see if that double top pattern actually completes or not. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. As always, smash up the like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, right? And stay tuned for my future videos. And like I promised, some of you guys are asking about XRP. Here's a good explainer video about XRP and why you should not be holding on XRP.
What do you think about Ripple?
Well, I mean, I think it's too centralized, but I definitely want to meet Chris Larson.